for everyone around the globe watching this new episode of Cultures of the World. This time, we are talking about Germany. It's a very special country that we know that happened a little bit of controversial, but it's happily again and don't have alerts. And Germany in the present days is amazing.
So, I'm really interesting to learn about Germany and the present day. So, first, I would want to talk about the economy in Germany. I know that in some data that I gathered that I know that Germany has a really mixed economy, and it allows a free market economy with consumer goods and business services. But the government actually imposes regulations even in those areas to protect its citizens. And if you have a higher income, you have to pay more taxes. That is a really interesting law that they have over there in Germany, and I think that is really good that they protect their citizens with those business services. And what do you think about that, Juan Pablo? Do you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think it's a good thing because I read somewhere that the German Constitution of the Basic Law guarantees the right to own the property and the freedom of the movement, the free choice of the occupation, and the freedom of association. And equal it is to the law. However, the consumption of the modification of the operation is inflated due to the free market. By its means, it is the social market economy, which is one very big market of the economy. And Ivan, what's your opinion about the social market of economy?
Well, it's a very special economics. It's different between here in Mexico that we all know. And some information that I gather that in the social economy markets, the government attempts to foster a fair play between management and labor and to regulate the relationship between capitalist participations in the markets, particularly with regard to competitions and monopolies. You know that or not?
Actually, didn't know that. I didn't know much about Germany economy, and I think that it's really interesting how they put this social market economy in this law, and I'm really impressed how the government implements this very good laws. Actually, I think that it has helped Germany to grow into one of the most powerful economies in the recent eras, and I'm really impressed. And I think we should grab those good things that other countries does and implement it in ours. And do you think so? Do you think the same, Juan Pablo, about this?
Yes, I think that it's very interesting the different economic models of different countries, and we should know more about this.
Well, yes, another thing that we all forget that social markets economic was created by policy markers with a vivid memory of a market distortions and social tensions caused by a giant industry just before 1939. Before we all know why it's current controversial information, but it's so different that economy in Germany. We need that's why it's a great power in our days.
Well, I think that is it with Germany economy, and I would like to talk about now about I would like to talk about the Second World War, even though it can be a polemical topic, but I would like to talk about that.
This topic, named Economy of Germany, we change radically to another very controversial topic, the World War. It's a it's a great topic to talk, and we all like how that happened in history and how we evolve after that consequences. Francisco, you know something of the Second World War?
Well, I actually do know some things, especially with the impact on Germany and Europe. The Second World War was one of the huge transformative events of the 20th century, with more than 40 million deaths in Europe alone. It has been the biggest war in human history, and large amount of physical capital was destroyed throughout all the 6 years of ground battles and bombing. Many people lost their homes, many people lost family, many little kids lost their parents in war, and it's something really sad, and it caused a lot of poverty, and especially with poverty comes hunger, and it put the world in a really big depression in the next years. Ivan, do you know something what happened with Germany after this war, or what happened with it? I'm really interested to know. Do you know anything about it?
Well, yes. After a big research I do, it was a plan. Leaders of USA, the USSR, and Great Britain planned the denazification, democratization, and dismilitarization of the post-war Germany.
Wow, that almost sounds like a tongue twister. Do you know what happened after that?
Well, yes. These three ultimate victorious powers along the France shared the administration of Germany, which was carved up into four zones of occupation. Berlin, which found itself within the Soviet zone of occupations, or Eastern zone that we all know, was also itself divided in four zones of occupations or sectors that we call. Immediately after the war, Winston Churchill spoke of an Iron Curtain that had descended across Europe, behind which the Soviet Union was hiding. An iron curtain is drawn down upon their front. We don't know we do not know what's going on behind. The Iron Curtain separated the capitalist West from the Soviets, Communist East, and became the front of the new line conflict that we all know, the Cold War.
Wow, it's really amazing how one war almost led to another, but thankfully we all know that the Cold War never actually happened directly, but it reflects this the separation of Germany reflects how the capitalists and communists were always in a race, and they always wanted to win over the other. And and Juan Pablo, you know how this ended, because all know that Germany is one big country again. So do you have any more data, Juan Pablo?
Oh, yes. Well, Germany was actually the biggest affected country of the Cold War due to it being split, and its capital was split into the western side, which was the capitalist, or the eastern front, which was the ones of the communist. And this was most apparent in Berlin, which had a big wall that was built back in August in 1961, which fell in 1989, which was the biggest step in the German reunification in over 44 years after the end of the Second World War.
Well, I'm really glad that they could be back together, and it's impressive how after they were separated in two, they grew back together, reunificate, and now most of us know that it is one of the biggest world economies and most powerful countries nowadays. So finally, I would really like to talk about you know uh Germany's sports, and I'm really interesting to know, because sports is a really important part of each country's culture. So I will want to talk about that.
Oh, and the sponsor of today's podcast was brought to you by KFC Español, to lick your fingers. And Francisco, do you know something about the sports in Germany?
Well, I when I think about Germany sports, I mainly think about one, and it is football. It is the most popular sport in the whole Germany. And the German Football Association, it's the sport's national governing body with more than 6.6 million members, roughly 8% of the population. Wow, that is a really huge percent. And it is organized by more than 26,000 football clubs. No wonder they have a lot of talent. And Ivan, do you have any data on players or techniques that they use in Germany to be so good?
Yeah, after a little bit of research years ago, players such Joshua Kimmich, Mayer, and Sergei Gnabry might have been deemed too small to make it in the highest level. Yet Germany focused on technique, tactical warrants, and positioning allows talented players. However, diminutive to make the grades as long as they are good enough. Next time you watch a Germany play, pay attention to how often the ball is lost due to a poor first touch or how often possession is given away cheaply. Well, Juan Pablo, you know another sport that like the Germans?
Yes, I heard a lot about the German Tracking and Field Association, with its headquarters having over 1 million competitive and recreational athletes throughout the whole German state. The association was founded as the German Sports Authority for Athletes as early as 1989, and today it is the fifth largest association in the German Olympic Sports Association.
Wow, I actually didn't know that they lacked track so much, and even 1 million people competing in track. It actually I'm surprised with such a big amount, and I learned a lot about Germany today, and especially in sports, I wasn't expecting that they liked track so much. So I think that would be it. Thank you to everyone watching this episode today, and special thanks to our producers and thank you for Juan Pablo and Ivan for coming today in this episode. Uh, I want to give a huge shout out to KFC Español for sponsoring our podcast, and we hope to see you on the next episode when we will talk about the Mexicans and their impact in the world and their food. So, bye everyone. See you next episode.
Bye.